A waitress pours water. A billionaire prepares to sign a deal that will cost him $500 million. The room is silent, the pen hovering over the contract. But the waitress, a young woman everyone ignores, sees something no one else does. She leans in, and in a language no one else at the table understands, she whispers a single, world-shattering sentence. In perfect German, she says, "This isn't a real one." That whisper didn't just stop a signature. It unraveled a conspiracy that went years into the past and ignited a war for revenge that would rock the financial world. The L'Orangerie was not a restaurant. It was a statement. Located on the 60th floor of a glass spire in Manhattan, its windows gazed down on the city like a bored deity. The air was thick with the scent of white roses and old money. The cutlery was heavy silver, the tablecloths were Egyptian cotton, stiff with starch, and the silence was the most expensive item on the menu, broken only by the discreet murmur of multi-million-dollar deals and the chime of crystal on crystal. Clara Hayes moved through this silence like a ghost. At 26, she was invisible, and she had cultivated that invisibility with the precision of an artist. Her brown hair was pulled back in a severe, forgettable bun. Her uniform was immaculate, black and white, a suit of armor that deflected all attention. She was quick, efficient, and never, ever made eye contact for more than a second. To the patrons of L'Orangerie, she was just the girl. Her manager, Mr. Dubois, a man who seemed to be perpetually sucking on a lemon, appreciated her. "Miss Hayes," he would say, his voice a nasal sneer, "you are the only one here who understands that good service is unseen service." Clara would just nod. "Yes, Mr. Dubois." Tonight, she was assigned to the most important table in the restaurant, Table 1, the corner booth with the bullet-resistant glass. It was reserved for Maximilian von Hesse. Von Hesse was a legend, a titan of German industry, steel, pharmaceuticals, technology. He was in his late 60s, with a face that looked carved from granite and eyes the color of a winter sky. He was old world, stoic, and possessed a fortune so vast it was spoken of in terms of national GDPs. He was surrounded by two other people, a man and a woman, who radiated a predatory, modern energy that clashed with von Hesse's aristocratic calm. The man was Brian Thorne. He was handsome in a way that seemed algorithmically generated, perfect teeth, a chiseled jaw, and a dark, expensive suit that fit him like a glove. He laughed easily, but his eyes, Clara noted, never laughed with him. The woman was Isabella Rossi. She was sharp, elegant, and wore a red dress that screamed confidence. She handled the technical aspects of the conversation, her voice smooth and convincing as she spoke of leveraged assets and unprecedented market synergy. Clara moved in to clear the appetizer plates. She was practiced, her movements economical. As she reached for Brian Thorne's plate, her wrist brushed his. "My apologies, sir," she murmured. "No harm done, my dear," Brian said, giving her a 1,000-watt smile that felt like a spotlight. Clara flinched internally. He hadn't just looked at her. He had assessed her, catalogued her, and dismissed her in a single, fractional glance. As she pulled back, her eyes involuntarily flickered to his wrist, to the watch that had peeked out from under his French cuff. Her blood went cold. It was a Patek Philippe Grandmaster chime, reference 6300G. A $2 million watch, a horological masterpiece with 20 complications, a reversible case, and a sound that was, by all accounts, angelic. It was a watch for kings and emperors. Clara knew this watch. She knew it because her father had owned one. He had spent 10 years on the waiting list for it. He had called it his greatest folly and greatest joy. She knew the specific, intricate, hand-carved guilloche pattern on the white gold case. She knew the exact shade of the opaline dials, and she knew, with an absolute, paralyzing certainty, that the watch on Brian Thorne's wrist was a fake. It was an exquisite fake, a super clone that would fool 99.9% of the world. But she was the 0.1%. The laurel leaf engraving on the bezel, it was machine-tooled, not hand-carved. The depth was off by a fraction of a millimeter. The luster of the gold was just slightly too brassy, a telltale sign of a non-standard alloy. Clara retreated to her station by the service bar, her hands trembling so slightly that only she could feel it. A $2 million fake. The conversation at the table continued, reaching its crescendo. Isabella Rossi slid a thick, leather-bound portfolio across the table. "As you can see, Maximilian," she said, her voice dropping to a confidential purr, "the patent is clean. The projections are conservative. This green hydrogen technology will revolutionize global shipping." Brian Thorne leaned in. "This is it, my friend. The final piece. Once you sign, the wire is initiated. By the time the Tokyo market opens, we will be partners." Maximilian von Hesse nodded slowly. He looked tired, but satisfied. He had clearly been convinced. He was an industrialist. Green hydrogen was his world. This was the deal of a lifetime. Clara watched, her heart hammering against her ribs. It wasn't her business. It was never her business. She was here to be invisible. She was here to pour water and clear plates and earn the $180 that would pay her rent. She was hiding. She couldn't afford to be seen. Getting involved would get her fired instantly, or worse. But she couldn't tear her eyes from the watch. Why? Why wear a fake? A man closing a $500 million deal, which, based on the murmurs, was the low-end estimate, would not wear a fake. He would wear a genuine $20,000 Rolex. He would wear a $50,000 Audemars Piguet. He might even wear a simple, elegant Cartier. Or he might wear no watch at all. But he would not wear a $2 million forgery. Unless he was all presentation. Unless he was a fraud. Unless the suit, the teeth, the confidence, and the revolutionary technology were all just as fake as the watch on his wrist. Unless this wasn't a deal. It was a scam. A very, very good one. Brian produced a pen. It was heavy, gold, magnificent. "Maximilian, shall we make history?" Maximilian von Hesse picked up the pen. He uncapped it. He adjusted the contract, his eyes scanning the final signature line. Clara's mind screamed, Don't do it!" She saw her father's face. She saw him in his study, the day his own perfect deal had unraveled. She saw the empty look in his eyes, the polite, devastating letter from the bank. She saw the ruin that had followed. She couldn't. She just couldn't watch it happen again. Clara picked up the heavy crystal water pitcher. Her hand was steady. Her face was a mask of professional emptiness. Mr. Dubois caught her eye and nodded sharply toward table 1, signaling her to do her job. Their water glasses were indeed half empty. She moved, one foot in front of the other, gliding across the plush carpet. The 60 floors below her felt like an abyss. Brian and Isabella were smiling, their faces alight with victory. They were watching Maximilian, watching the pen. Maximilian inhaled, readying his hand to sign. Clara arrived at his left side. She was perfectly positioned. Her body shielded her face from Brian and Isabella. Only Maximilian could see her. She leaned in, her arm extending with the pitcher. It was a normal, practiced movement. She was just the waitress. She tilted the pitcher, and the water flowed silently into his glass. And then she spoke. She didn't speak in English. She spoke in the language of his childhood, the language of his boardroom, the language of his home, a language she hadn't used in public in 2 years. She whispered, her voice so low it was barely a vibration in the air, but her diction was flawless, formal, and cold. "Be careful, Mr. von Hesse." Maximilian von Hesse froze. His head didn't move, but his eyes, those icy, winter sky eyes, snapped to hers. The pen stopped, hovering a millimeter above the paper. He didn't see a waitress. He saw something else. He saw her. Clara kept pouring. Her eyes were locked on the glass, but her whisper continued, sharp and fast. "The watch on his wrist. The Patek. That isn't a real one." She finished pouring. She pulled the pitcher back with a deft, practiced twist to catch the last drop. She straightened up. Her face was once again the perfect, subservient mask. "More water, sir?" she asked, in placid, unremarkable English. The spell was broken, but the world had shifted. Maximilian von Hesse did not look at her. He placed the pen down on the table, not on the contract. "What's wrong, Maximilian?" Brian asked, his smile faltering, becoming a rictus of anxiety. "The signature. It is a significant sum," Maximilian said, his voice a low rumble. He dabbed his lips with his napkin. He was stalling. His mind was clearly racing, recalculating everything. "Of course," Isabella cut in, her voice like silk drawn over steel. "But as we discussed, the window with the Tokyo Consortium is tight. They are waiting for your signal." Maximilian's eyes, slowly, deliberately, moved from Isabella's face to Brian's. He let his gaze drift, as if casually, down to Brian's left wrist. Brian, sensing the shift, instinctively pulled his cuff down an inch to cover the watch. It was a tiny movement, a micro-expression of concealment, but Maximilian saw it, and Clara, standing 10 feet away at her station, saw it. It was an admission of guilt. The whisper had been a rock tossed into a placid lake, and the ripples were now tidal waves. "I find," Maximilian said, folding his napkin and placing it deliberately on the table, "that the air in here has suddenly become stuffy. I require a moment." He began to stand up. Panic flashed in Brian's eyes. This was the critical moment. The hook was in, and the fish was about to snap the line. "Maximilian, please, we can open a window, but the wire transfer, it must be initiated." "It will not be initiated tonight," Maximilian said. His voice wasn't loud, but it cut through the restaurant's quiet hum. "There has been an oversight from my team in Berlin." "An oversight?" Isabella challenged, her mask cracking. "What oversight? We have been through 6 months of due diligence." "An oversight nonetheless," Maximilian said, now fully standing. He looked past them, his eyes scanning the dining room until they found Clara. He gave a sharp, almost imperceptible jerk of his head. Then he did something that shattered all protocol of l'orangerie. "Young lady," he called out, his voice commanding, "show me to the restroom, at once." Mr. Dubois, across the room, looked as if he might faint. A guest never addressed staff so directly, and a guest never needed an escort to the famously well-marked facilities. Brian and Isabella stared, bewildered. Clara's heart was in her throat. She was exposed. She was fired. She was in terrible, terrible trouble. "Yes, sir," she said, her voice a reedy thin. "This way, sir." She turned and began to walk, acutely aware of the 3 sets of eyes burning into her back. Brian's, filled with confusion and suspicion. Mr. Dubois' filled with murderous rage. And Maximilian's filled with a cold, terrifying and profound curiosity. The corridor to the restrooms was soundproofed, lined with grey velvet. The moment they turned the corner, out of sight of the dining room, Maximilian's hand shot out and clamped onto Clara's upper arm. It wasn't violent, but it was inescapable. He spun her around and backed her against the wall. He was a foot taller than her, and his presence was overwhelming. "Who are you?" he demanded. He spoke in German. "Wo sind Sie?" Clara was trembling. I am Clara Hayes, sir. I'm a waitress. Do not lie to me," he snapped, his voice a low, dangerous growl. "Your German, it is flawless. Hochdeutsch. The accent, it is from the north. Hamburg. Bremen. Not the kind of German one learns in a school. The kind one is born with. Sir, please, you must let me go. I will be fired." "You were fired the moment you spoke to me," he said bluntly. "Now, you will answer me. The watch. How did you know?" Clara saw the abyss opening up. She had been hiding for 2 years. 2 years of scrubbing floors, serving coffee, and living in a tiny, roach-infested apartment. 2 years of being invisible. And it was all over. She took a deep breath, and the mask of the waitress dissolved. The fear was replaced by a cold, familiar exhaustion. She switched back to German, and this time her voice was not the whisper of a servant. It was crisp, educated, and aristocratic. "The guilloche on the case is machine-milled, not hand-carved," she said. "The depth of the engraving is wrong by at least 1/10 of a millimeter. The luster of the white gold is incorrect. It has too much nickel, giving it a yellowish tint. It's a forgery, a Grade A replica, probably from a high-end black market workshop in Guangzhou, but a forgery nonetheless." Maximilian's eyes widened. He had expected a lucky guess, an intuitive feeling. He had not expected a technical dissertation. "How?" he demanded. "How do you know this? Are you a watchmaker?" "No," Clara said, a bitter taste in her mouth. "My father. He collected them. He owned a real one." A flicker of recognition passed through von Hesse's eyes. The waiting list for a Grandmaster chime was a very short, very exclusive list. To have owned one. "Your father," he said, his voice softening just a fraction. "What is his name?" "It doesn't matter. He's gone." "What is his name?" he insisted. "Friedrich," she whispered. "Friedrich von Adelsberg." The blood drained from Maximilian von Hesse's face. He let go of her arm as if he'd been shocked. "Adelsberg," he breathed. "Friedrich, of the Adelsberg Bank in Hamburg. Good God, I knew your father. We were competitors, but honorable ones. There was a scandal, a catastrophic collapse. They said he took his own life." "He was ruined," Clara said, her voice shaking with a sudden, resurrected fury. "He was destroyed. He lost everything. Our name, our homes, our everything. And you?" He looked at her uniform, at the cheap, worn-out shoes peeking from under her black trousers. "You are Clara von Adelsberg, serving tables at l'Orangerie." "I am Clara Hayes," she corrected him, her voice hard. "And I needed the job." Maximilian stared at her, the pieces clicking into place with audible, terrifying snaps. The daughter of a German banking magnate, reduced to this. A woman with an eye trained to spot the tiniest flaw. He turned away from her, his mind clearly working at lightning speed. He pulled out his phone. He didn't dial. He pressed a single button. "Stefan," he said, again in German. "We have a problem. I am at l'Orangerie. The deal is dead. I need you to run 2 names, Brian Thorne and Isabella Rossi, and the investment vehicle, H2 Gen Global. I want to know everything. Shell corporations, aliases, bank accounts, alles, now." He listened for a moment. "I don't care. Pull the team from the Tokyo desk. I want this done before I have finished my coffee. And Stefan, send a car to the service entrance. A discreet one. Our party has grown by one." He hung up. He turned back to Clara. "You said the watch," he said. "You were warning me that he was a fake, but you had no idea if the deal was a fake. A man who wears a $2 million fake watch to a $500 million signing is not just a liar," Clara said. "He is a sociopath. He's signaling his contempt for you. He's so confident in his scam that he's dangling the proof of it right in your face, believing you're too stupid or too arrogant to see it." A grim, thin smile touched Maximilian's lips. "Fräulein von Adelsberg, you have an interesting mind." Just then, the corridor door swung open. It was Mr. Dubois, his face puce with rage. "Miss Hayes, what is the meaning of this? You are harassing our guest. You are fired. Get your things. Get out of my restaurant. Security will escort you." "That will not be necessary, Mr. Dubois," Maximilian von Hesse said, stepping in front of Clara. His voice was quiet, but it had the weight of a collapsing mountain. Dubois froze. "Herr von Hesse, I apologize for this. This girl's incompetence." "This girl," Maximilian said, "is my new associate. She has just performed an invaluable service for me. You, on the other hand, have failed to provide a secure environment for your clients." Dubois' mouth opened and closed. "Ms. Hayes will be leaving with me. Have her personal effects brought to the service entrance immediately. And add a 2011 bottle of Romanée Conti to my bill, a celebratory gift for my new colleague." He placed a hand on Clara's lower back. "Come, Fräulein. We have much to discuss." He guided her past the stunned manager, not back toward the dining room, but toward the private service elevator. As they walked, his phone buzzed. He looked at it. "Stefan is fast," he murmured. "The initial check. Thorne and Rossi are aliases. The H2Gen global patent. It's registered to a shell company in the Cayman Islands, a shell company that was dissolved 3 months ago. The bank account they wanted me to wire to, it's a washout account. Had I signed, that 500 million euros would have been sliced, routed through a dozen countries, and vanished into cryptocurrency wallets within 90 seconds. Clara felt dizzy. She leaned against the elevator wall. "So, I was right." "You were righter than you know," Maximilian said, his face dark. "You didn't just save me money, Fräulein. You may have just saved my company." "And them?" Clara asked, thinking of the 2 scammers still sitting at the table, probably just now realizing their host was not returning. "They will find I have left," Maximilian said. "They will be angry. They will slip out of the restaurant, and they will disappear. They are ghosts. The police will never find them." "So they get away with it," Clara said, the words bitter. The elevator doors opened into a sterile, concrete garage. A black, armored Mercedes S-Class was waiting, a man in a dark suit, Stefan, holding the rear door. Maximilian looked at her, his winter sky eyes analytical. "Oh no, Fräulein von Adelsberg," he said. "They don't get away. They made a fatal mistake tonight. They didn't just try to scam me. They let you see them." The penthouse was less an apartment and more a fortress in the sky. It occupied the entire top 3 floors of the building, a silent, sterile expanse of white marble, glass, and brushed steel. The few pieces of art on the walls were not warm, but trophies, a Richter, a Rothko. Clara, still in her black and white uniform, stood in the center of the living room, feeling like a smudge of dirt on a pristine canvas. Stefan Brandt, Maximilian's head of security, handed his boss a tablet. "We have more, sir," Stefan said in his clipped, military-style German. "The aliases Brian Thorne and Isabella Rossi have been used at least 4 times in the last 3 years. A failed land deal in Dubai, a fraudulent pharmaceutical venture in Zurich, a rare earth mineral scam in Toronto. They are high-level financial predators, very smart, very clean. They never leave a trail. But they left one this time, Maximilian said, tapping the tablet. They left a witness, her. He turned to Clara. She had been given a bottle of water and a warm towel. She looked pale, but her eyes were no longer frightened. They were hard. Fräulein von Adelsberg, Maximilian began, I owe you a debt. You saved my reputation and a significant portion of my liquid capital. I will see that you are compensated. A check, a new apartment, a job, something suitable. Clara shook her head. I don't want your money, Herr von Hesse. No? He raised an eyebrow. What then? I want him, Clara said, her voice low. Him? You mean Thorn? I don't know if that's his real name. It's the one he used 2 years ago. It's the one he used on my father. The silence in the room became absolute. Stefan stopped his work. Maximilian's hand, which had been reaching for a glass of scotch, paused. Explain, he commanded. My father wasn't a fool, Clara said, her voice gaining strength. He was a good banker, conservative, cautious. But he was grieving. My mother had passed away. He was lonely, and he wanted to leave a legacy. He wanted to do one more big thing. She walked to the window, looking down at the city lights. And then Brian Thorne appeared. He wasn't selling green hydrogen then. He was selling hope, a revolutionary algorithm for high-frequency trading. He was charming. He became my father's friend. He came to our house for dinner. He smiled at me. Clara shuddered at the memory. He gained my father's trust, and then he convinced him to leverage the bank, to move assets, to temporarily bypass the German financial regulators, BaFin, for a 24-hour period to secure the deal. My father. He trusted him. He did it. And the man vanished, Maximilian concluded, his voice grim. Like a ghost, Clara said. The algorithm was fake. The assets were gone. The regulators discovered the breach. The Adelsberg Bank was insolvent in 12 hours. My father was ruined. His friends, his clients, his partners, they all turned on him. They called him a criminal. 2 weeks later, he went for a drive, off a bridge. The police ruled it an accident. But he left a note. She was crying now, silent tears of cold rage. The note said one word, Thorn. And you? Maximilian asked, his voice gentle. I had nothing. The bank seized everything. Our name was mud. I was the scammer's daughter. I couldn't get a job in Germany. I couldn't even walk down the street. So I disappeared. I took my mother's maiden name, Hayes. I came to New York. I learned to be invisible. I've been working and looking. I've been scanning financial news, chat rooms, anything, for 2 years, looking for his pattern, looking for Brian Thorne. I never thought I would find him serving him champagne. Maximilian von Hesse sat down. He looked at this young woman, this ghost of a once great family. He saw her father's intelligence, but he also saw a fire, a steel, that old Friedrich von Adelsberg had never possessed. He saw a weapon. You said you want him, Maximilian said. What does that mean? Do you want the police? Interpol? I can make those calls. No, Clara said, wiping her face. The police can't get back what he stole. They can't clear my father's name. They will arrest him. He will post bail, and he will disappear again, probably with a new face. I don't want him arrested. I want him ruined. I want to do to him what he did to my father. I want to take everything from him. And I want him to know it was me. Maximilian was silent for a long time. He swirled the scotch in his glass. "That is a difficult ambition, Fräulein," he said. "I have the motive," Clara said, "and you have the means. He tried to scam you. This isn't just my fight anymore. It's yours." "He's a ghost," Stefan interjected. "He's already gone. We'll never find him." "Oh, he's not gone," Clara said, a strange, sharp smile playing on her lips. "He's just in transition. And he's greedy." "Explain," Maximilian said. "A scammer like that. He's not just running one con, he's running a dozen. The H2 Gen Global was his whale. He lost it. He's angry. He's furious. But he's also arrogant. He doesn't think I'm a threat. He thinks you got spooked by a bad financial report from your office. He doesn't know he's been made by the Waitress." She turned from the window. "He's arrogant and he's greedy. And that's how we get him." "How?" "We don't chase him. We lure him. You're going to reach out to him, Herr von Hesse. Not as a victim, but as an apologetic partner. You're going to tell him your Berlin problem is solved. And you're going to offer him something even bigger. Something so big he can't resist. Something that will make him come to us." Maximilian looked at Stefan. Stefan looked at his boss. A slow, predatory smile spread across Maximilian von Hesse's face. "Stefan," he said, "cancel my appointments for the rest of the week and get our contacts at Banque Helvétique de Crédit in Geneva on the line, the private banking division. Tell them I am diversifying my portfolio." He turned back to Clara. "And you, Fräulein von Adelsberg. You are no longer Clara Hayes. You are going to go upstairs, get some sleep. Tomorrow, my tailor and my legal team will be here. You are, as of this moment, Anna Richter, my new, ruthless, and exceptionally brilliant financial advisor from Berlin." "Anna Richter?" Clara asked. "Yes, and Fräulein Richter has a very keen eye for forgeries, and an even keener one for revenge." 3 days later, Brian Thorne and Isabella Rossi were sitting in a private suite at a hotel in Dubai, licking their wounds. "It was the Berlin office," Isabella spat, pacing the marble floor. "The old man's internal auditors must have flagged the transfer. He got cold feet, €500 million. Gone!" "He'll be back," Brian said, though his confidence was shaken. He was looking at his fake Patek. It suddenly felt heavy, cheap. Men like von Hesse, they don't get that rich by being timid. He wanted that deal. He's just cautious. "He's cautious, and we're exposed," Isabella shot back. "We need to burn the aliases, move the accounts, and find a new mark." Just then, Brian's encrypted phone buzzed. It was a new email, routed through 3 layers of security. The sender, M. von Hesse. His heart leapt. He opened it. "Mr. Thorne, my sincerest apologies for my abrupt departure from New York. As I mentioned, an internal matter required my immediate attention. It was, I'm displeased to report, an attempted hostile takeover by a competitor, timed to coincide with my significant new investment. I am pleased to inform you that the threat has been neutralized. My position is secure. This incident, however, has made me realize that my current financial structures are too visible. The green hydrogen project is excellent. But I am now in the market for something more, a larger, more discreet relocation of assets away from the prying eyes of regulators and competitors. Your channels, which you described so eloquently, seem to be the perfect vehicle. I am no longer interested in the €500 million investment. I am interested in moving 10 times that amount. I will be in Geneva in 2 days. My new advisor, Fräulein Richter, will coordinate. She is meticulous. I trust we can resume our partnership on this grander scale. MVH. Isabella and Brian stared at the screen. 10 times, Isabella breathed. 5 billion euros. He's not just cautious, Brian said, a wide, predatory grin spreading across his face. He's desperate. The takeover attempt rattled him. He wants to hide his money. This is it, Brian, Isabella said, her eyes gleaming. This isn't a score. This is the score. The one that lets us retire. We could buy an island. We could buy a country. Geneva, Brian said. He's coming to our territory. He's bringing the money to us. This Anna Richter, Isabella mused. His new advisor. She'll be the problem. She'll be the one we have to convince. She's just another bean counter in a pantsuit, Brian scoffed, his arrogance fully restored. She'll be so dazzled by the numbers, she won't see the knife until it's in her back. Book the flights. We're going to Switzerland. 2 days later, in a sterile private meeting room at Banque Helvétique de Crédit in Geneva, the trap was set. The room was modern, soundproof, and had no windows. It felt more like an interrogation chamber than a banking suite. Maximilian von Hesse sat at the head of the table. At his right hand sat Anna Richter. The transformation was absolute. The mousy brown hair was gone, replaced by a sleek, severe black bob. She wore a dark grey, custom-tailored Jill Sander suit, minimalist diamond stud earrings, and glasses with a thick black frame that gave her an air of severe intelligence. She looked like she could calculate the cube root of a prime number in her head while simultaneously ordering an assassination. When Brian and Isabella entered, Brian smiled warmly at Maximilian. Maximilian, my friend. So glad we could reconnect. He then turned to Anna, extending his hand. And you must be Fräulein Richter. A pleasure. Anna did not smile. She did not extend her hand. She simply looked at his, then up at his face, her eyes cold behind her glasses. Brian's hand hovered awkwardly in the air for a moment, before he retracted it, his smile wavering. Fräulein Richter, Isabella cut in, trying to smooth the... We are so pleased to discuss this new opportunity. The infrastructure you're requesting. 5 billion. It's significant, but achievable. Achievable, Anna said, her voice a flat, icy alto. She spoke in German, forcing them to follow her lead. Maximilian had insisted on it. Your initial proposal for the hydrogen deal was unambitious. The routing was amateurish. It would have been flagged by FINMA and the SEC before the first transfer even cleared. Isabella and Brian exchanged a surprised look. This was not the bean counter they expected. The routing was standard for discretion, Isabella countered, switching to slightly accented German. It was lazy, Anna snapped. Using a primary correspondent bank in a Five Eyes jurisdiction? Childish. My employer does not pay me to be childish. He pays me to be invisible. She pushed a tablet across the table. This is our proposal. The transfer will be executed in 12 tranches, simultaneously, through 12 non-affiliated sub-accounts, routed through secondary markets in Singapore, Mauritius, and Liechtenstein. It will be invisible. However, she leaned forward. A transfer of this magnitude requires absolute, synchronous trust. As we are initiating the transfer, you will be placing your assets in escrow, collateral. Collateral. Brian laughed. Fräulein, that's not how this works. We are the gateway. We don't pay him for the privilege. You are not paying, Anna said. You are demonstrating good faith. Herr von Hesse is liquidating a significant portion of his industrial holdings for this. He requires assurance that his partners are who they say they are, and that their gateway is as robust as they claim. Our word is our assurance, Isabella said. Your word, Anna gave a small, dry laugh. Your word is attached to aliases, Thorn and Rossi. We are not fools. The scammers froze. We know who you are. Maximilian said, speaking for the first time, his voice a quiet rumble. We also know that you are very, very good at what you do. We don't care about your names. We care about your network. We want to buy into it. And this is the price of admission. What collateral? Brian asked, his voice now tight. He was hooked. The sum was too big. The assets you currently manage, Anna said. All of them. The shell accounts, the offshore holdings. We have a list. She slid another document across. It detailed, with shocking accuracy, a half-dozen of their largest illicit accounts, the very accounts that held the money from their previous scams. You will place these accounts into a joint access escrow account here at this bank. The moment our 12 tranches clear your designated endpoint, the bank will automatically release the escrowed funds back to you, along with your 10% commission, 500 million euros. It is clean, it is simple, and it is non-negotiable. Brian and Isabella were silent. It was an audacious, arrogant, brilliant plan. And it was, in the high-stakes world of financial crime, perfectly logical. They were being asked to put up their entire criminal enterprise as collateral. If they scammed him, they would lose everything. If they played straight, they would win a fortune beyond their wildest dreams. How did you get this list? Isabella whispered, staring at the account numbers. Anna tapped her glasses. As I said, Fräulein, we are not amateurs. Do we have a deal? Or did you fly to Geneva to waste our time? Brian looked at Isabella. Her eyes were wide. It was the ultimate gamble. But they were gamblers. We need 24 hours, Brian said. 9, Anna said. You have 1 hour. The accounts are being prepared by the bank president as we speak. Yes or no? Brian looked at the 500 million euro commission. He looked at the 5 billion euro principal. Yes, he said. We have a deal. The next 24 hours were a blur of encrypted messages, legal authorizations, and coded bank transfers. Brian and Isabella worked tirelessly, consolidating their stolen fortunes into the single escrow account at Banque Helvétique de Crédit. It was, as Anna had predicted, the ultimate lure. To get the whale, they had to risk their entire catch. The final meeting was set for 3 p.m. the next day in the bank's main secure transfer room. It was a cold, glass-walled room, dominated by a long conference table and a massive screen showing the complex, multi-layered transaction flow. Brian and Isabella sat on one side. Maximilian and Anna sat on the other. Standing at the head of the table was the bank president himself, a stiff, formal Swiss man named Monsieur Perrault. Good afternoon, Perrault said. Everything is in place. Herr von Hesse, your 12 tranches are staged and ready for initiation. Messieurs Thorn and Rossi, your collateral, amounting to checks notes, 840 million euros, has been confirmed and is secured in the joint escrow account. Isabella felt a jolt. 840 million. Their entire criminal career quantified. The process is simple, Perrault continued. Herr von Hesse, you will give the verbal authorization. The transfers will begin. The process will take approximately 45 minutes to clear all 12 gateways. The moment the 12th transfer is confirmed as received by your network, Mr. Thorn, the escrow account will automatically release. It is all automated. Shall we begin? Maximilian looked at Anna. She nodded once. Begin, Maximilian said. On the big screen, the simulation came to life. 12 lines of light shot out from a central hub labeled Von Hesse Assets, moving toward 12 different endpoints. Tranche 1, confirmed, Perrault said, his voice a monotone. Tranche 2, confirmed. Brian and Isabella watched, their breathing shallow. They were so close. 45 minutes. Clara, Anna, watched them. Her face was marble, but inside, her heart was a beating drum. She was watching the face of the man who had destroyed her father. He was sweating. He was checking his phone, confirming with his own people that the money was arriving. Tranche 7. Confirmed. Tranche 8. Confirmed. "It's working, Brian," Isabella whispered, unable to contain her excitement. "It's really working." "Of course it's working," Brian hissed back, trying to maintain his composure. Clara focused on her breathing. She thought of her father's study, the smell of old books and cigar smoke, the heavy gold pen he used, the devastating emptiness of the room after he was gone. "Tranche 11, confirmed," Perrault said. 1 to go. And Tranche 12, initiated and confirmed. A large green "transaction complete" flashed on the screen. Brian let out a breath he seemed to have been holding for a minute. He grinned at Isabella. "We did it." He looked at Monsieur Perrault. "The escrow," he said, his voice triumphant. "Ah, yes," Perrault said. He typed something into his terminal. "The escrow. Releasing. Now." Brian's encrypted phone buzzed. He looked at it. The grin vanished. "What?" Isabella said. "What is it?" It's not there," Brian said, his voice rising. "The transfer confirmation. It's not the escrow. It's a €1 transfer." "What?" He showed her the phone. "Monsieur Perrault," Brian said, standing up. "There is a mistake. The escrow didn't release." "There is no mistake," Perrault said, looking up, his face devoid of its professional warmth. "What do you mean?" Isabella demanded. "Release the funds. Our deal." "The deal," Anna Richter said, her voice cutting through the panic, "is complete." "What are you talking about, you little—" Brian started, moving toward her. "Stefan," Maximilian said. The door to the conference room opened. Stefan Brandt entered, followed by 2 uniformed Swiss Federal Police officers. "What is this?" Brian roared. "Maximilian, what is this?" "This," Maximilian said, standing up, "is what we call a hostile takeover." "The 12 tranches," Anna said, her voice clinically cold as she, too, stood. "They weren't sent to your network, Mr. Thorne. They were sent to 12 separate secure accounts, also at this bank, all under the name Von Adelsberg Restoration Fund." Brian and Isabella stared, their faces ashen. "The confirmation you received," Anna continued, "was a simple data packet, a ghost signal. You've been chasing a shadow." But our money!" Isabella shrieked. "The escrow! Perrault, you can't!" "The escrow account," Perrault said, reading from a new document, "has been frozen by order of the Swiss Financial Market Supervisory Authority, FINEMA, pending an investigation into money laundering and financial terrorism." You. Brian was sputtering, looking from the police to Maximilian to Anna. "You scammed us! You, Waitress!" The word hung in the air. Clara's eyes snapped to his. The blood had drained from Brian's face. He was looking at her, really looking at her. He recognized her. Not from the bank, from the restaurant. "You," he whispered, horrified. "The girl. At l'Orangerie." "Hello, Brian," Clara said. She took off the black-framed glasses. The Anna Richter persona dissolved, leaving the ghost of Clara von Adelsberg. "You knew," he breathed. "The watch. That's why he—" "It was a cheap tell," Clara said, her voice shaking, but not with fear. With a cold, final fury. "My father taught me to spot a fake. It seems it's the only thing you're good at." "Your father?" Brian was white. "Friedrich," she said. "Friedrich von Adelsberg. You remember him, don't you? You came to our house. You drank his wine. You destroyed him. You murdered him." "No!" Brian yelled. "That was business. He was weak." He was trusting, Clara shot back. And now, you are nothing. The 840 million euros in that escrow account, Maximilian said, will be seized. My legal team will spend the next decade working with the authorities to ensure every single cent is returned to the families and businesses you and your partner defrauded, including the Adelsberg estate. Take them, Stefan ordered the officers. As they clamped the cuffs on Brian's wrists, right next to the fake Patek Philippe, his eyes were locked on Clara's. They were not filled with anger. They were filled with a dawning, absolute professional respect. He had been beaten by the waitress. You, he said, with a quiet, venomous admiration. You are better than he was. They dragged him from the room. Isabella was already sobbing, a broken, hollow sound. The room was silent. The heavy door of the secure transfer room clicked shut, engaging its magnetic lock with a final, definitive thud. The sound echoed in the sudden, deafening silence. Brian Thorne and Isabella Rossi were gone. The Swiss police, Monsieur Perrault, and even Stefan Brandt had departed, leaving only a faint, sterile scent of ozone from the electronics and the ghost of Brian's last, venomous word, waitress. Clara von Adelsberg stood alone in the center of the glass-walled room. Her reflection stared back at her from the massive, dark monitor that had, just minutes before, sealed the fate of 2 international criminals. She saw Anna Richter, the severe, $5,000 black bob, the cold, intelligent eyes behind the non-prescription designer frames, the flawless, armor-like Jill Sander suit. A woman built for war. Her hands, which had been so steady as she signed the documents that sprung the trap, began to tremble. It was a violent, uncontrollable tremor that started in her fingertips and shot up her arms. The adrenaline that had been her sole companion for 3 days was draining away, leaving a vast, cold, terrifying emptiness in its wake. She had done it. The thought didn't bring triumph. It didn't bring joy. It didn't even bring relief. It brought a profound, echoing hollowness. For 2 years, she had woken up every single day with one purpose, one single, burning hot coal in her chest: revenge. Every grueling shift at l'Orangerie, every condescending customer, every roach-infested night in her tiny apartment, it was all made bearable by that single, driving force. It was the fuel, and now the tank was empty. Maximilian von Hesse had been standing in the corner, a silent, granite-like observer. He watched her for a long moment, his icy blue eyes, analytical, missing nothing. He saw the facade of Anna Richter crack. He saw the tremor. He saw the ghost of the waitress and the ghost of the aristocrat warring behind her eyes. He walked not to her, but to a brushed steel cabinet. He bypassed the scotch and the brandy, retrieving 2 crystal-heavy tumblers and a chilled bottle of water. He poured 2 glasses and set one on the conference table in front of an empty chair. "Sit, Fräulein," he said. His voice was not kind, but it was not harsh. It was a simple statement of fact. Clara's legs, seeming to belong to someone else, obeyed. She sank into the chair, her hands immediately clasping each other on the table to still the shaking. "It is done," Maximilian said, taking the seat opposite her. He did not drink his water. He simply looked at her. What happens now?" Her voice was a reedy whisper, the voice of Clara Hayes, not the ice-cold alto of Anna Richter. "Now," Maximilian said, "the professionals take over. The 840 million euros in that escrow account, along with the ledgers we acquired from Thorne's network, are a gift to international regulators. FINMA, BaFin, the SEC. They will spend the next 5 years dissecting it. The money will be seized by the state. My legal teams will work, pro bono, to see that every verifiable victim is repaid. He leaned forward slightly. And the first, largest claim will be filed on behalf of the Adelsberg Bank estate. The ledgers? They contain Brian Thorne's own internal notes. They explicitly detail the Friedrich Adelsberg operation. They prove, in the criminal's own hand, that your father was a target, a victim of a sophisticated fraud, not a co-conspirator. The scandal is over. His name will be cleared. Publicly. Clara closed her eyes. She had expected to weep with gratitude. She felt nothing. The victory was so complete, so total, that it was abstract. Brian, his last words to me, she said, her voice stronger now, laced with a familiar coldness. He said I was better than he was. He respected me. She said the word like it was poison. He was wrong, Maximilian said flatly. Your father was a builder, a man of honor. Men like that build civilization. He was also right. You are better than your father. At his game, Brian's game, the game of the predator. He finally took a sip of water. The question is, Clara, what do you do when the game is over? What does the predator do when the hunt is finished? This was the question, the one that echoed in the vast, hollow space where her rage used to live. I don't know, she whispered, and it was the most honest thing she had said in 2 years. I am not Clara Hayes. I am not Anna Richter. She gestured to her severe suit. And I am not Clara von Adelsberg. That girl died with her father. Good, Maximilian said, startling her. That girl was a child. The waitress was a ghost. Anna Richter was a weapon. They were all necessary. They all served their purpose. Now, you get to choose. He leaned back. You will be, upon the liquidation of your father's restored assets, an extraordinarily wealthy woman. I have done my part. My debt to you is paid. I can have a car take you to the airport. I have a private island in the Aegean. You could go there, rest, read, study watches. Forget this. Forget me. You have earned your peace. Go and live a quiet life. A quiet life. An island. Peace. It sounded like a prison. Clara looked at her reflection in the dark screen again. She saw the face of the woman who had just lied to, manipulated, and systematically destroyed 2 human beings. The woman who had, for a fleeting, terrifying moment, enjoyed the snap of the trap. The woman who had looked into the abyss and felt, not fear, but curiosity. I can't, she said. Maximilian raised a single, silver eyebrow. No? Peace? A quiet life? Clara gave a short, harsh laugh that sounded alien in her own ears. That's for people who still believe the world is safe. For people who haven't served champagne to the man who murdered their father. She stood up, the tremor gone, replaced by a new, cold energy. She began to pace. You said Brian's game is over. You're wrong. It's not his game. It's the game. He just lost his round. This whole time I thought I was hunting him. But I wasn't. He was just a symptom. The disease is the world we live in. The world where men like my father, good, honorable, trusting men, are eaten alive. Their lambs, led to a slaughter they can't even see. She stopped pacing and turned to face him. This world, it's not run by governments. It's run by capital, and that capital is hunted by predators, men like Brian, men who speak the language of synergy and opportunity, but mean theft and ruin. They hide in plain sight. They wear $1,000,000 fakes. They are everywhere. And you, Maximilian said, a note of deep, genuine interest in his voice, you can see them. I can smell them, Clara said, her voice dropping, because they made me one of them. Brian was right. I am better. I'm better because I have my father's ethics, but I have Brian's toolkit. And I cannot, go and sit on an island. So what will you do? He asked. Clara walked to the table and picked up her own untouched glass of water. He called my father weak. He wasn't weak. He was unprepared. He brought a family crest to a knife fight. She took a sip. I am going to rebuild his bank. Maximilian was silent for a full 30 seconds. He studied her, the old industrialist gazing at the new-minted weapon. The Adelsberg Bank, he said slowly, is a toxic asset, a name synonymous with scandal and ruin. It's my name, she countered, her voice like steel. And it won't be a museum to my father's honor. It will be a fortress. It will not be the Adelsberg Bank he built. It will be the bank he needed. Explain, he commanded. It will be a private bank for a new world. A bank for people like you, Maximilian. People who are targets. Our clients won't just get wealth management. They will get intelligence. They will get security. My bank won't just analyze the market. It will analyze the man you're about to do a deal with. My team will be echtes, people who can spot a fake watch, a fake patent, or a fake identity from a mile away. We will hunt the hunters. We will be the bank that knows how to bite back. A slow, grim smile touched Maximilian von Hesse's lips. It was the first time she had seen it. It was a predator's smile. A bank of spies, he mused, run by a ghost. A bank of protectors, she corrected him, run by a survivor. He stood up, his full, intimidating height filling the room. A venture like this, it requires more than your father's restored and diminished capital. It requires a reputation. It requires allies. I know, Clara said. She did not waver under his gaze. That's why I'm looking for my first client, and my first investor. She held out her hand. It was perfectly steady. Maximilian looked at her outstretched hand, then into her eyes. He saw the ice. He saw the fire. He saw the ghost of Friedrich von Adelsberg, and he saw the birth of something entirely new, something ruthless and brilliant. He saw a mirror of himself. He didn't take her hand. Instead, he clapped her hard on the shoulder, a gesture of respect, an anointing. Fräulein von Adelsberg, he rumbled, you have found him, but I will give you one piece of advice. He finally, formally, shook her hand. His grip was like iron. When you spend your life hunting monsters, you must be very, very careful not to become one. Clara's hand tightened in his, matching his pressure. I'm not afraid of monsters, Herr von Hesse, she said. I have an advantage. I know what a real one looks like. And so, Clara von Adelsberg, the waitress who was invisible, traded her apron for a fortress of her own. She proved that the smallest detail, a whisper, a flawed watch, a hidden memory, can topple an empire of lies. She didn't just get her revenge, she reclaimed her name and built a new future from the ashes of her past, on her own terms. The world is full of predators like Brian Thorne, but it's also full of quiet, observant heroes like Clara, waiting for their moment. What did you think of Clara's incredible transformation? Was her counter-scam justice, or did she become the very thing she was hunting? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. If you loved this story of drama, twists, and ultimate revenge, please like this video and share it with someone else who loves a great story. And don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you never miss another upload. Thank you for listening.